the other question that, the other point that stuns me is that the women's participation in the labor force is actually dropping in India. We are amongst the lowest, apparently, even amongst developing countries. So when you do these wellness programs, how many in the room or in the virtual room are women? I'm just curious now.
Less than 10%.
Wow. That's bad. That's so bad. So, okay, so here's the other thing. So people talk about the fact that we take maternity leaves. That's the thing that is most commonly, that's the only biological difference. Only biological difference. But gender bias in terms of pay bias is a cultural phenomenon. People dropping out of the workforce is a cultural phenomenon. Oh, yeah, sorry, we live longer. That's also a biological thing. So I guess there are a couple of biological issues and a couple of cultural differences. The other thing that I think is not talked about is the fact that couples split up. So while you may do division of labor, fact is one day you may just decide to leave. It may be a bad marriage, it might be an unhappy marriage. So the need for having women controlling their own finances is very important. As much as you love your husband while things are good and say manage it, you may want to walk out one day, and then you shouldn't have to then figure out whether he has a Swiss bank account or not, or whether he's hidden money in a trust or not, or whether something else. So I think that's not talked about. And every time I brought it up, people sort of say, oh, that's a very Western concept. It's not very Indian. I heard Deepika Padukone say very recently, it's not that women weren't happy earlier. It's just that back then we weren't really putting our own happiness first. We now are. So I think we're likely to see an increase in that. So now the question is, therefore, with all these factors, how would you do asset allocation differently? And I'm putting asset allocation in inverted commas. Let me describe for everyone here. Asset allocation is nothing but how much you allocate to equities versus real estate versus fixed deposits versus gold and so on. Nothing more, no bigger hawa than that. So how should women allocate differently because they have these gaps and get paid less but live longer and may have to walk out one day? So maybe start with the lower segment, and rather gold is something that we've always known that at lower end people buy, they hide the money and then they buy gold bangles or gold chain with it. To what extent do you see that playing out in maybe slightly higher sort of segments? And then we can just go around the room and just ask about this. And rather you start.
Sure. I think actually like at the lower segment, gold is like, like it's also a currency of transaction, right? Like in the same, some of the circumstances that you described, if, for instance, a woman doesn't have money to feed her children or to feed herself, because either the husband is up and left, or like something has happened to him, right? Like there could be instances of that. For women, then gold becomes the currency of transaction, right? They can pledge, sell, and use the cash actually like to run their household still. So that's the first thought when they are buying actually like gold. And that's why actually for the lower income classes who don't have who don't have any trail of like, how their income comes in, most often they're paid in cash. So there's no trail for them to figure out. They don't have bank accounts. They're very like, threatened by the fact that if they go into a bank, they don't get treated well. Therefore, like they're threatened by the environment, right? So for many of these factors actually prevent them from participating in formal financial systems. So gold becomes the currency of transaction for them. And therefore it becomes that much more important. It also adds to their prestige, right? Like when they're wearing a piece of jewelry in their societal context, it adds to their prestige. However, the trend actually doesn't change drastically as you go up the pyramid, because for in a sense, I think it's also a question of security, because when you get gold jewelry, whether you buy it or whether somebody is gifting it to you, it is your own as a woman. You own it. And again, it becomes a safety kind of an asset, right?
Is it legally Stridhan, right? Is it legally Stridhan, which cannot be taken away from you if someone is gifting it to you?
So it is. I don't know that women actually think that deeply, right? But while legally it is true, it is also physically true, right? Like you take control of your locker, you take control of your safe, right? So in that question, it is mine and you wear it. So people know it is yours. Mera haar. It's all up. So in that context, there is this high degree of safety and that thinking drives gold purchase. Most often than not, it ends up being jewelry, which I don't think is the best asset. But it is easier to convert women to buying, I don't know that gold is a great asset anyway. It is something that you might want to hold in proportion. But anyways, but they don't like holding it either as a gold ETF or as a gold, it's not as obvious because, it doesn't become yours, and it is not visibly yours. So it is across societal strata that you see that gold is a first option for asset building.
And you don't think they're not buying gold ETFs or gold, digital gold, is a matter of no trust in the financial system? Could there be a factor of that?
It is not necessarily no trust in the financial system. It is about how liquid is that, and do I need to learn a lot more about that? So how do I actually transact in that? It is the first barrier to learning, right? So it is, that's one. And financial assets wise, people still have this my household is divided as investments. This gold bar, probably my husband invests in, father invests in, whoever. Whereas a gold jewelry is mine to therefore I prefer to use this as such. So that's it. Right. One is a mental part, one is actually it's just that right. You have to go up the learning curve.
Mrigan, asking you, the other trend that I've seen is that De Beers marketing is an overdrive, and everyone now wears diamonds. I myself didn't like gold for the longest time. Now I can't wear anything but gold, just my skin reaction. But I'm just saying that the marketing of De Beers was so good over the last 40, 50 years, such that people sort of thought diamond is as good as gold, which of course it's not, right? Because gold has a thousands of year history. I've worked with the Gold Council, so gold is a legitimate asset class. Whether you like it or not is a philosophical issue. No returns, but safety. So do you tell your women clients they do gold, but only a maximum of X%? What is that X%?
Yes, I do. So yes, of course, diamonds have very low resale value. So buy, while diamonds are a woman's best friend, please buy it in based on what you're going to wear. I mean, if you're going to buy stuff to keep it in the locker, it's of no use at all. It's not a great investment. Gold is not a bad investment, honestly, Hansi, for women. And, it's Anuradha talked about the whole tangible nature and the whole security aspect that comes with gold, which is why it is a preferred option. But certainly, I do see that women buy gold coins or jewelry, which is really not the right way to buy it, because you're paying a cost of about 5% to up to 30% on jewelry, and I was really horrified because there are those small pieces that I do buy for myself, and it always pinches me to pay 30% as overhead charges, right? And here people are fighting for 1-2% expense ratio, right? So I do recommend not more than 15% of allocation to gold, and do it through the sovereign gold bond or the gold ETF. When you look at the returns between these sovereign gold bond and the jewelry, and the ETF as well, you are going to see a difference of about 2% in returns. And that's mainly because of the costs associated with buying jewelry. So you're better off, gold ETF is as liquid. You can exit it whenever you want to. It's taxed is similarly as jewelry. So, there should be no reason, except for the fact that you feel more secure having that gold in your hand. There is no other real benefit of buying jewelry.
I don't know, Mrigan. The way I see the gold making charges, and I come from a jeweler family, so understand that we also have to pay artisans for designs and actually making. And I think I see gold making as artisanal as sari making or handloom making or whatever. Right? There's a craft to it. So I don't know about that. I think you, as you said, maybe the 30% you earmark as this is what I'm paying the artisan to make a good design, and the other 70% is the investment value.
An investor education and awareness initiative of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.